Now, I don't know about you, but I love eating at restaurants. It's a really nice time to be with friends or family, to bond over food together, and to enjoy the creation and the craft of an excellent chef. The atmosphere can be beautiful, the decor, it's just a really lovely way to spend an evening. However, I believe it's also true that eating at restaurants makes eating healthy quite difficult. So in this video, I want to unpack this and give you 5 reasons why I believe that restaurants make healthy eating hard. Let's dive in, friend. Now, the first thing here, I think, is that restaurants tend to use a lot of oil, butter, and they fry a lot of foods in oil. And this is often, I think, far above the level that people generally use at home in home cooking, right? So you might use a little bit of oil or butter in your cooking at home, but you're generally going to keep it fairly minimal. And most people, I think, don't tend to have a deep fryer, an oil deep fryer in their home. Certainly not where I'm from in the UK. Maybe it's more common where you are, but I don't think most people use them, at least on a regular basis, at home. However, restaurants will tend to use oils and other fats like butter quite liberally, in quite high amounts. So what's the problem here? Well, the first problem is that oils add a lot of calories to a meal. They're very, very calorie dense, around about 4,000 calories per pound of food. So there's so many calories packed into a small space. Now, this might be okay, but generally people are not able to sort of register the amount of calories. Their body isn't able to understand the calorie density of a food like oil. So it doesn't really satiate us. What this means is that we tend to kind of unknowingly eat a lot more food if there's a lot of oil used in that food. For instance, studies have been done where participants are asked to eat as much as they want from a buffet. And some participants are given food that's got no oil in, and others has oil in. Now, what tends to happen, roughly, is that the participants eat a similar weight of food, but the ones that have the oil often have 300, 400, 500 calories more without even realizing it. So you can easily see how this would lead to weight gain over time. Additionally, when we have fried foods, so you've got an oil bath at a very, very high temperature, and what this tends to do is cause rancidity in the oil, and it creates pro-inflammatory compounds. When we eat these in the form of fried food, this is really quite damaging to especially to our arteries, to the inner wall of our arteries, the endothelium. It can cause an inflammatory response throughout the body. It's also thought to potentially contribute to cancer as well. And of course, another aspect when it comes to a lot of fat, a lot of oil in our food, it will cause the viscosity, the runniness of our blood to increase. So instead of our blood being nice and easy to flow like water, it becomes thicker and sludgier, a bit more like honey or something like that. And so what this means is the heart has to work harder to pump that blood round the body. So it means our cardiovascular system is under additional strain when our blood is more viscous because there's more fat carried in it. So we'll tend to find that restaurants do use a lot of oil in their cooking, and particularly even with fried foods, and this can result in negative outcomes for our health, and sometimes effects that we can see literally within hours of putting the food in our mouths. The second reason why I believe that restaurants make healthy eating hard is that they use a lot of salt. Now, restaurants, of course, use salt because it makes the food taste good, right? It makes it really tasty. It kind of takes away any blandness. And most of the time, because there's so much salt in processed foods that we eat, our palates, our tongues are quite used to salty foods. And when food doesn't have a lot of salt in it, we find it unpleasant or not as tasty. So restaurants will tend to add quite a lot of salt to make sure that we enjoy the food that they're serving. So what's the problem here? Well, a lot of salt is going to increase our blood pressure because it's going to hold on to extra water. So rather than us excreting it through our urine, when there's a lot of salt, the body says, hang on, we need to hang on to a lot of water here. If we have more water in our blood, then the pressure is going to be higher because the body has to have more fluid in it. Think of your garden hose pipe, right? If you only have a little bit of water going through, pressure's low. If you have a lot of water, pressure's a lot higher. Additionally, another thing to bear in mind when it comes to salt is that it actually encourages us to eat more of the food. Obviously, from a restaurant's point of view, that's good because we're eating more and we're going to spend more money. But for us, we may not want to eat that much. And so it kind of prevents us from stopping when our natural satiety signals are saying, you're full now, and we go on that little bit further. I believe the figure that's coming to mind from a particular study was we tend to eat about 11% more calories when the food is salty compared to when it's not. So that's quite significant, actually. Hey friend, I just want to jump in real quick to offer you hopefully a really helpful free gift to say thank you for being here with me today and sharing your precious time with me. This is my guide on the top 5 biggest nutrition mistakes to avoid on a vegan diet. Now, a vegan diet often comes with multiple health benefits, but these common pitfalls can sometimes prevent people from getting to those health goals and enjoying health and vitality. So if it will be helpful to you, please click on the link in the description below. It's my free gift to you, friend. Now back to the video. I think the third reason why restaurants, it's tricky to eat healthy is because there's quite a lot of social pressure. So you may go to a restaurant on your own, but quite often it's going to be with friends or it's going to be with family, with other people. And so when other people are ordering quite unhealthy foods, they're being quite indulgent, maybe you're trying to eat healthy, but when everyone else is doing it, you kind of think, well, maybe I need to join in, maybe I need to partake and have the same sort of thing that everyone else is having. And this social pressure is really quite powerful. We don't like to feel like we're the odd one out. And so even if friends aren't actively putting pressure on us, although they could be sort of saying, oh yeah, go on, have the burger and chips, have whatever. Even if they're not doing that, it still feels kind of awkward if you're like, oh, I'll have the sort of kale salad or something, right? And so even if there are healthier options on the menu, which of course is not a given, many restaurants just don't really have any particularly healthy options. They're all not great for us. But even if there are some, it becomes more taboo perhaps to choose them, where if you're with a group of people that are all eating in a certain way. So that social pressure can make it quite tough actually to eat healthy in a restaurant. And the fourth big reason here is that vegan options may be limited or not there at all. And this kind of feeds into the social pressure point that I just made. But obviously on this channel I talk about vegan foods, and usually just by default, choosing the vegan option on a menu will probably be healthier. Very often it'll have more vegetables, it might have more whole grains or some beans or legumes. So these are really healthy, nutritious foods. And often they will be featured in the vegan option on a menu. So of course, some restaurants you will just have a meat alternative burger with non-dairy cheese, something like that, which isn't particularly veg heavy, but quite often maybe you can get a nice risotto or something like that, which has rice and vegetables and mushrooms in, or a nice stew or curry. So you're going to get a lot of good nutrition in there. However, not all restaurants are going to do a vegan option. So even if you're going to ask for it, it might be a little bit awkward, it might be a little bit uncomfortable. You don't want to necessarily, again, feel like the odd one out, like the black sheep, if you're sort of saying, oh, excuse me, can I please have a vegan option? Now, in my experience, restaurants and waiters and waitresses are more than happy to help you if you ask for a vegan option. It's generally not a big deal for them. They're happy to accommodate that. But still, you might feel a little bit conscious about it. And of course, when you go out to a restaurant, you really want to enjoy it. It's a nice occasion. You want to savor this meal that you're probably paying a premium for, and you want to appreciate, great food that a skilled chef has prepared for you. Now, that could be difficult if you have to compromise on that taste and that experience through having a vegan option. Some restaurants will put quite a lot of effort into their vegan options and make sure they're just as good as the omnivore options, but some restaurants may kind of have it as a bit of an afterthought, or may just not have anything at all, and you end up having to have salad and chips, which I've had to have a few times, like plain rice and salad or something. It's most of the time that's not the case, but occasionally it does happen because restaurants in certain places where there isn't a demand for it, they're just not going to do it. Now you can normally always get something vegan, even if it is just salad, rice and fries, but that's not really what you want. You want more of an experience, a really well-crafted, pleasant meal. And so that's another way that not having access to those vegan options in restaurants can make it harder to choose a healthy option. Now the fifth and the final reason why it is tough to eat healthy in restaurants is that they do tend to use quite a lot of sugar. So I've already talked about fat and salt, and probably the third one in that trinity is really sugar. You know, how many times have you been in this situation? I know I have, where you've had a great main meal, maybe you've had a starter as well, you're stuffed, you're so full, you're like, oh my gosh, that was a great meal, I really enjoyed it. And the waiter or waitress comes over and says, oh, would you like to see the dessert menu? I'm really full, but okay, I'll see the dessert menu, I'll see it. And then I'm trying to decide whether, I think I've got a little bit, suddenly I've got some more room in my stomach, right, for this dessert. That's how I feel. And actually that is a phenomenon where when we have a new taste sensation, we suddenly, our bodies want to get some of that because it would sort of, in nature, it would signal different nutrients. And particularly sugar, it tended to signify a good source of calories, which has survival benefits. Not so much today when we're in a restaurant. So obviously in desserts, sugar is used a lot, but it's also used in savory dishes too. In main meals, in things like sauces, you know, barbecue sauces, ketchups, things like that. It's quite common to get a fair bit of sugar in there too. Of course, extra added sugar is not a health food, right? It does tend to lead to weight gain, it can cause tooth decay, obviously, and it causes, you know, sharp rises and then big falls in our blood sugar, and therefore an insulin response to that. So it tends to play havoc with our blood sugar, which can leave us feeling sort of tired, lethargic. It can kind of mess with our hunger signal, so we get hungrier much quicker than we would have done otherwise. So again, because it makes the food taste so good and make it appealing, restaurants will quite often use a lot of sugar. So those are 5 reasons why it is quite hard to eat healthy at restaurants. But I don't think it's impossible. You can find restaurants where, you know, there will be good vegan options that have plenty of nice veg in there. Maybe they don't go too crazy on the oil and the salt and the sugar, or you could even ask them, just say, you know, don't put oil on this for me, or you could sort of say, look, I'm on doctor's orders, please don't put any extra salt in this. I mean, you might feel a little bit awkward about doing that, but that is the option there, and generally they will go out the way if they can to accommodate your request. And particularly if you find a restaurant that does good quality food that you think's healthy and it's good for you, they get plenty of colourful veg in there, I think it's really nice to go and support them. You know, go and spend a little bit of money there every now and then and show your appreciation for what they're doing, because they're definitely the outliers rather than the norm in restaurants. But even with that said, I think if we're eating at restaurants regularly, yeah, we're going to see that weight gain. Probably the quality of the food isn't going to be quite as good. We're going to get more of that fat and sugar and salt. It's going to be a little bit harder to eat healthy. So what I would suggest to you, and what I do, is I still go to restaurants. Of course I do. It's a really nice occasion. But I try to make it, you know, an occasional treat, once every couple of weeks or so, and really savor it and enjoy that, but make the bulk of what I'm eating good, healthy, home-cooked food. And I think this is quite nice anyway, because it means that we can be a little bit more mindful about the experience that we have when we go to a restaurant. It can be more than just about the food, it's about the people we're with, it's about the atmosphere, maybe you have a nice drink with it, and it becomes, you get dressed up nice, right? So it can be a really good occasion and just a whole experience. So the actual food becomes less important. And if we're a little bit more mindful about it like this, I think it becomes a nicer experience. We don't have it all the time, we don't take it for granted, we really appreciate it when we do go out to a restaurant. And don't forget, if you would like to pick up my guide on the top 5 nutrition mistakes to avoid on a vegan diet, you can get that totally for free, link in the description below. I've been Dr. Ryan Williams, your host and the founder of Growing Pure, where I help you achieve health and vitality through delicious vegan food. Now, if you've enjoyed this video and you've gotten some value from it, I think you'll also enjoy a video I did on the top 5 biggest nutrition myths that I used to believe and that held me back from achieving health. If that sounds interesting to you, you can click right here to watch that. Friend, I want to thank you so much for sharing your precious time with me today. I really do appreciate it. I'll see you in the next video.